Hello everyone and welcome to Views from the Yale. So it's the start of a new season and that means it's time for new predictions for the season. So how I'm going to work it for this video is going to be what I think the results will be for the month of August for Wrexham, and then a little bonus at the end predicting where I think Wrexham will finish at the end of the season. Not predicting teams 1 to 24, just focusing on Wrexham where I think they'll finish. Of course, if you are a Wrexham fan, it'd be great if you could subscribe to the channel and show your support. It'd be greatly appreciated. I know it's going to be a very, very difficult season. I think a very, very different experience probably from last season where we were in control most of it and it was a very tense experience, but I think it's going to be a bit more difficult this year. Still expect that we'll be up there challenging, but it won't be nearly as, well, easy is probably the wrong word really, but more that it won't be as intense as that battle with Notts County last season. So starting with our first game coming up on Saturday 5th of August, it's Milton Keynes at home. So I think this will be a pretty tough game. We've got the appointed Graham Alexander, who has been to the racecourse before, taking his Salford team where they lost 5-1 to Wrexham. He's sitting hoping he's not going to get that same sort of experience when he plays us again. Milton Keynes, they were a bit unlucky last season to get relegated. It was quite a close event, really. It could have been them or Cambridge going down. You could say they're a bit unlucky, but generally say over the course of a season you make your own luck, don't you? That's just the way things are, really. I can see they have made a fair few changes, fair few signings. I suspect Milton Keynes will be up there. Probably, I'd say with Graham Alexander, I'd probably expect him to be in the playoffs, really. So this is going to be a tough game for Wrexham starting off, and then obviously makes it a bit more difficult. We're missing Paul Mullen for this first one, and at the time as I'm recording this, there's been no further signings to the Wrexham squad. But I still think Wrexham probably will win this game. There will be a tight one. I think it probably will be a goal between it. Either 1-0 to Wrexham or 2-1 to Wrexham. I can't see us blowing Milton Keynes away. It'd be a bit like it'd be like how Wrexham played potential playoff teams in the conference last year, where we're going to be punished more for our mistakes that we make. I think Milton Keynes probably will be a team that could take advantage of that. But I still think, we've got that quality overall in the team, and with Phil Parkinson being very highly experienced manager, I think we will get the win on our return back to the EFL. Now, moving on to our next fixture in the League Cup, home against Wigan. I think that's quite an interesting game as well, because Wigan's going to be another difficult team. Of course, in League One with a points deduction for not paying their players last season, and they've had a new owner take over, which thankfully has hopefully resolved their financial issues, set them on a better course, really. I guess you could say it depends a bit on what you think their ambition is this season, to stabilise in League One following the points deduction and then try for promotion the following season, or is just trying to avoid relegation as best they can and see what happens after that. Again, they've had quite a few changes in their team. I think with that one, I'd probably say Wrexham to win it, but it wouldn't be surprising if this goes to extra time and takes a bit more effort for us to best Wigan. I think there will be plenty of changes probably for both sides, with it being quite a busy start to the season. But I think we'll get through that one and then get through to the second round and hopefully play, not saying Wigan aren't a decent sized club, but face a bigger side in the next round who could bring a nice bit of early money into the club. Well, not like we need loads of money anyway, but it'd be nice to have a bit more to help us, probably in January at that point anyway. Yeah, so then moving on to our first away game, off to Wimbledon on the 12th of August. So I would think probably after 2 tough games, and if I'm correct, which, well, hopefully I'm correct anyway, if it goes extra time against Wigan, I wouldn't be surprised if we're a little bit tired going across to Wimbledon. I'd probably go for a draw in that one. It won't be, in terms of technically opposition, you think that Wimbledon won't be as difficult as Wigan or Milton Keynes, but I think it might just be that with 2 tough oppositions, then going to Wimbledon, it'd be more difficult for ourselves. Probably expect plenty of rotation from the team, but I think it probably would be a draw. In Wimbledon, they were being pretty poor last season, just about survived, and then the previous season get relegated from League One. Obviously, we didn't really help them by taking Palmer off them, and I don't think they'll get relegated. I think they'll probably have a comfortable season, mid-table-ish, and see if they can move on after that, because they probably they've had a couple of difficult seasons. But again, I think there are far worse teams in the division than Wimbledon. They'll have a comfortable season, probably nothing too spectacular, but when you've had 2 poor seasons in a row, you kind of want something a bit, I don't know, a bit dull in comparison. I can understand from Wrexham's point of view. We've had a fair few bad seasons, so I can understand having a bit of a mediocre rebuild sort of season isn't too bad. And then moving on to another home game. The home games are coming thick and fast in August. So home against, well, relatively local opposition in Walsall, probably one of our close games. I mean, again, Wigan aren't too far away from Wrexham, but yeah, Walsall come to the racecourse on Tuesday, the 15th of August. I think that's could be an intriguing one, because I know Walsall do seem to have wealthy owners, but don't seem to be spending the money they think perhaps they could do. But going from, with their signings, they have brought in a fair few. Danny Johnson, who I thought did quite well for them last season, scoring plenty of goals, and they've cleared out a fair few, so it's a bit of a turnover from them. But I think, in terms of this one, I think Wrexham will beat Walsall, so probably a bit more comfortable than MK Dons in the last league home game. But I think we'll win this one. A lot of these teams are having a lot of turnover in their playing squad, which could be an advantage for Wrexham in the early stage of the season. Hopefully that gives us a nice little early advantage over some of these teams who probably are maybe still gelling going into the first month of the season, and then we'll see what happens. But anyway, moving on to our next game against Swindon Town on the 19th. Again, I think Swindon, a couple of seasons ago they were in the playoffs, and I think they were close to going up, but it didn't quite work out for them well last season. Where they finished 10th, some way off the playoffs. I think they probably will expect to be in more contention for the playoffs, because they were 14 points off the playoffs last season. You'd have thought they'd expect it a lot better than that, and I think for a club of their size, they've got to be challenging a bit higher up. But they'll probably understand that it'll be a tough season this year. I think they'll be close, or at least challenging for the playoffs at a minimum, I think. But in terms of this game, I think Wrexham will win. But again, I think it'll be a tight game, really. So at the moment, I'm predicting a fair few wins, 4 wins and a draw. But I think the last game, away at Barrow, I think this might be our first defeat of the season. Got a lot of respect for the Barrow manager, Pete Wild, because I think he did a fantastic job when he was at Halifax. And then last season with Barrow, I think he did a great job as well, because I think everyone expected Barrow to just get knocked down and get relegated. But he turned them from a team who just about scraped survival, who had quite a bit of turnover in terms of managers. And in that first early part of the season, he made them look like potential promotion contenders. Especially the first game where they beat Stockport in the very first game and shocked them, and for a good while they looked like they could be challenging for the promotion places. Obviously they did drift off towards the end of the season, but again, they were 9th, so in a very strong position. It was a poor end to the season, which, if the form was a bit better, they could have been in the playoffs, which again would have been amazing for them. But it seemed like last season they were struggling with goals. Looking at some of their signings, difficult to tell, really. A lot of these names are a bit unfamiliar, but I think a lot of that's due to the fact that Wrexham have been out of the Football League for such a long time. I think a lot of success will be relying upon Pete Wild. I think he's a superb manager, and I think it's more about how he develops players rather than the players themselves, and how he works them. I think that's more the case for him, because I've seen individual players that have gone from where he's managing them not done so well. But in terms of Barrow, I think they'll probably finish mid-table-ish with Pete Wild. I wouldn't be surprised if Pete Wild gets snapped up again by another club higher up and progress his managerial career. Like I said, I think this might be the game where Wrexham do slip up and do lose, but that still wouldn't be too bad from the overall start of the season. Win 3 at home in the league, and then win our cup game, draw at Wimbledon, lose at Barrow, starting off with 10 points in the first few games. I think that's a good start. Not quite sure how that compares to some of the other teams who start in the league, but I think it'll be a reasonable start, because I don't think Wrexham are going to steamroll the division, and I think also might be slowed down in terms of without having the likes of Mullen available for at least the first month, maybe 2. That might affect us in terms of our attack, so I'm expecting might be a little bit of difficulty. Of course, like I said, as I'm recording this, we haven't made any further signings following the USA trip, so there could be a player comes in that changes things, but like I said, for now we are a little bit weakened, but I still think we're still strong enough to probably get through these games until Mullen returns. Of course, now we're saying, where do I think Wrexham will finish? In the overall division at the end. Of course, if you got this far, it'd be great if you could subscribe to the channel and please support me. But yeah, so where I think Wrexham will finish, I think I've seen a lot of people saying Wrexham title contenders or automatics, but I think playoffs really. I think I've seen a fair few times with Wrexham, we've got away with a few things. Some defensive errors not being punished by opposition strikers where they probably should have finished. I think 4th or 5th is probably the position I go for Wrexham this season. I mean, I think we still probably have a good chance to win the playoffs, but in the playoffs you never know what's going to happen. But I think if we get the playoffs, I think it's still a good start to our return to EFL, because I know the owners want us to get as high as possible, maybe Championship, Premier League, but I think it's probably a good thing if we were to go a steady pace and slowly but surely make our way up the divisions. But yeah, 4th or 5th, I think probably that's where we'll finish. But yeah, let me know what you think the results will be for Wrexham in the month of August, and where do you think Wrexham will finish at the end of the season in May. It'd be great to hear from you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe, and we'll chat to you soon. Thanks, goodbye.